service. And I'd like to introduce Susan Nesbitt, Susan Grossman. And I have not had a chance to meet all the students, so I would like you to just introduce yourself, and then we've also got, why don't we have you introduce yourself?
I'm Belle Hall.
I'm Dennis Scott, and I'm Untitled.
And you'll hear more from them in a few moments. And we have online via Skype Danielle Wand, who is also involved with this project. And so we're going to try to make sure that this all happens smoothly. And if you can, make sure that you're sort of closer to the front. That's great.
Thank you all for coming. My name is Susan Grossman, and I'm the Associate Director of the UBC Community Learning Initiative. And we'll sort of move Danielle so you can see the screen a little bit. The Community Learning Initiative is an initiative of the Learning Exchange, and our mandate is to work with faculties, both as instructors and actually as the institution, like Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Applied Science, to help incorporate community-based learning into their courses. So community service learning and community-based research. So it's a curricular experience students are doing. I'm not sure how much folks know about CSL, so I'll just give a brief, very brief overview, and then what will happen is Susan and the students for our class will actually show you it in action, how CSL is actually deployed. But so community service learning has three components. There's the classroom learning, so the course content learning. Then there's the application of the course content learning in a community, so seeking to identify and meet a community priority that's been agreed upon with a community partner, be it a school, government organization, small business in a rural or remote community, or a nonprofit. And then for the student to reflect on the experience. So you take this applied learning, this content knowledge, and you say, does it actually play out the way I expected it to play out in this sort of black box that is theory? And through that reflection, the student has both changed in terms of how they understand their learning, and also changed in how they understand their role in community. So that's just a brief, quick overview. And as I promised, you'll get more direct examples from the students about how that worked.
Sorry.
That's okay. There's a lot of activity going on in the back. So the CLI has a couple mandates. We're seeking to enhance student learning, so creating experiential learning opportunities that foster global citizenship. We are also seeking to, we changed plans this morning, so just modifying my notes here. Seek to contribute to society, so make a demonstrable impact on civil and sustainable society by deploying the resources of the university, faculty, students, staff, to community identified priorities. And then also we're seeking to collaborate with community. So everything we do with community is meant to be done in partnership. So it's not that university's expert and we're going in to solve problems, but together we're co-educating both the students and each other, and we're building capacity both here at UBC and in the community to continually solve and meet community identified priorities. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and as you'll see, if you want more information about CSL, we've got a website we've just created that is a hub site for everything you need to know about CSL, where it's happening on campus, in the community, projects that have happened, resources, we've got links, we've got faculty pages, what's going on in different faculties. So it's just csl.ubc.ca. Very easy to remember, but I just wanted to show that. So I'll turn it over to you, Susan, if you want to.
Okay,
from there.
sure. So welcome to this session. My name is Susan Nesbitt. I'm teaching two courses in the second year of the civil engineering program here at UBC. The courses that I teach are core courses. It's a professional program, so once students complete all 4 years of the program, they're eligible to register as engineers in training with the Professional Association in British Columbia. The courses that I teach are intended to give students context of their profession. So they're vague, they're sort of in an umbrella sense meant to look at society and technology issues, sustainability issues. And in the past we've found that, especially for second year students, those sort of concepts tend to be a bit nebulous and hard to connect to the other courses they're learning and their own vision of what they think their professional practice will be. So more recently, we've tried to bring into those courses sort of hands-on projects, and we've tried to link the kind of societal context to the process of design and the process of project management. So the courses that I teach, there are 2 consecutive courses, one in the first term, one in the second term, each worth 3 credits, so full load courses. Cover sort of the learning outcomes of those courses is to give students context for professional practice, give them an understanding of project management, of the design process, and within those, that kind of overview, introduce them to concepts of sustainability. Now, and the students that are with us today have very kindly taken time off of their heavy schedule. They take 6 courses a term, 6 3-credit courses a term, to come and visit us today and sort of talk to us about their experiences with respect to community service learning. So from my perspective, I'm interested in teaching students about sustainability, and I see community service learning as an excellent pedagogy, a vehicle if you want, by which they can learn about sustainability in their future practice. So before we sort of get into a dialogue with the students and with you guys, I'm interested to know what you want to get out of this. I could go over, for example, the 10 principles of sustainability in education that I think you've been introduced to earlier on this morning. I mean, when I look through this list of principles, I just kind of go, check, yep, we're doing that, yep, because it all sort of falls out of what you end up doing when you're working with community service learning projects. On the other hand, we could look at the kind of 3 main components of community service learning pedagogy. That is the sort of learning objectives associated with the course content, the academic content of the course, the volunteer work that the students do as part of their community projects, and then the reflection exercises they go through. We could do that. Or we could kind of focus on the students. They've put together some really cool stuff associated with their projects, videos and one thing or another. We could kind of focus on that. Is that, and I'm guessing you'd like to go right to what the students are doing. Okay, that's great. So what we'll do then is maybe we could ask each of you to kind of describe your project, and then maybe if you want to say a little, well, okay, so let's go through the description of your projects, and then I'll ask you to do it. Val, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Sure, you can stand up. And maybe we could just click on the read more, because this is Val's project here, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I was part of the Science World Water exhibit group, and so what we were supposed to do was come up with a design for Science World for a new water conservation exhibit. So we met with Science World and kind of talked about like what they wanted out of an exhibit. You know, like it has to be like easy for kids to understand, like a fun game for them to play, interactive, educational, all that kind of stuff. So, and after that, it was mostly just like creative. Like we came up with a couple designs and sent them out to Science World and said, like, what do you think about this? And finally ended up choosing this one. And what it was like a tubing system on a table where it had like one main tube and then some smaller tubes coming off the side. And those smaller tubes were connected to valves that had questions about water conservation. So the kids would come up and play, and like usually their parents would help them read the questions and like choose what they thought the right answers were. And then based on their answers, it would either like go into the water conserved bucket or the water consumed bucket. And it was really great because then the kids, you know, they see how they do and they're like, oh, like I want to play again, I want to play again. And, you know, tried to play again until they won. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks, Val. So I really like that project because the students are working with fluid mechanics in other courses. And this whole team had to sort of make something with respect to fluid mechanics. At the same time, they had to go through the design process. They had to talk to the people, their users, who would be playing with the project. You know, they had to understand context, what Science World was all about, what their clients were all about, and then convert that into something substantive. And then they had to go around figuring out where they get the materials and blah, blah. So from a civil engineering perspective, it's a very small scale project that they could begin to get used to what projects are like. At the same time, they were dealing with clients, real people, so it wasn't about marks. I mean, I'm sure it was a little bit about marks, but it wasn't, you know, they had to satisfy their clients. And as time progressed, what I noticed is the students focused less on marks and more on making sure that they're satisfying the client. So in terms of context for civil engineering, it was great. Also, they were learning about sustainability through water conservation issues. So they had to do a bunch of research associated with that. So, do you want to go ahead?
So my name is Dennis Fan, and for my CSL project, I worked on a gray water filter for the YWCA downtown.
What's your, you put together, or one of your team members put together a website,
Yeah.
right? What's the website? We'll just
It's
get it. Do you know where it is?
www.wix.com/graywater2010 slash YWCA dash Graywater and Lovely Drinkings.
Yeah, you've done so well.
Graywater, yeah.
Am I spelling that right?
Yeah, YWCA dash Graywater dash filter. See if that works.
Okay,
So
perfect.
this was the final deliverable that we provided our client. He wanted something educational that he could show the people that came to visit his garden. My client is Ted Cathcart. He was formerly working on the UBC farm before he went to the YWCA downtown Vancouver. So this is basically what was an ornamental garden in this YWCA. This one is located on Hornby Street. So it was an ornamental garden that Ted transformed into a garden that supplied vegetables and fruits to the YWCA location at Crabtree Corner, which provides a daycare service to women in the downtown east side. So our project was to, his goal for our project was to have a gray water filter that took gray water, which is water from sinks and showers from the building, recycled it to feed his garden on the 5th floor. Initially we over-designed a prototype that he thought was maybe too much, and basically we had over-engineered everything, so because we wanted to make sure that it was foolproof. In the real world, something simpler that he proposed was more realistic. And so in the second term, we implemented a design that we found online. We modified some things to make it work on the rooftop. And our build, we just finished a couple weeks ago.
Is there anything else on the website you wanted to show?
I'm not sure if it loaded. Oh yeah, right down there. So the little different tabs on the bottom, they give you different ideas, like brief overviews. So that's me working on the filter. There are 55-gallon drums that we collected from different auto places that wash cars. And so we're taking old material and recycling it into making the gray water filter. This saves us money in the budget, and it's better for the environment. It talks about the YWCA, the gray water, and our team. It's not very readable on the screen, but if you want to visit the website, you can take a read at that. And the contact tab, it just goes to our group Gmail account, which gets sent to all of our emails. If you have any questions, then feel free to use that.
Yes.
Can I ask a question in the middle?
Absolutely.
So just back to your example working with that client, you said you kind of over-designed.
Yeah.
Why do you feel you over-designed? Was that feedback from the client or your instructor? And how would that really, I'm just kind of thinking when I work with clients, I kind of go over and above what's asked of me, and that's just how I tend to work. But so why do you think you over-designed? Was that feedback or was that?
Yes, that was both feedback and the budget that we had. So we had a budget of $500, and our design in total would have costed at least $3,000. So, but for this, we built using roughly 300.
Wow. And are they going to continue to use this model or?
So the idea is that so far we've constructed it, but right now the city does not have strict or very clear gray water guidelines. And what we hope to do is we hope to run this through the year and collect information so that we can determine whether gray water is acceptable, and maybe in the future, the city of Vancouver, being its goal to be the greenest city in the world, maybe we can have definite guidelines for gray water. In the future, we're hoping to have all the downtown roofs to have a great green roof, and it would be ideal to be watered by gray water.
So, sorry, is that on your own time that you're going to kind of like continue this project, or is this outside of class time, or am I asking too many questions?
Maybe
I'm sorry.
Susan might be interested in making this next year's CSL project.
Sort of phase 2 of working with a client? Oh, I see.
So part of community service learning is that the institution and Susan and Susan's representatives and myself sort of represent UBC, build relationships with not-for-profit organizations. YWCA is one of them.
Right.
And they become co-educators with us as the students move through community service projects. Andrew's going to tell you about a project that actually is, his team is the third team that's worked on this over 3 years. So there's a sort of a building, really, eventually the project ends and we move on to another one. So it goes on. We have an expectation that, and this is all built into the course. So there's, as the assignment, the students are expected to spend, and we give them time to spend, and we give them marks to recognize the time they spent, 3 full days to build the project, to spend working on putting together the project that they've designed and acquired all the materials for and so on. So what I wanted to mention about what Dennis was talking about is, so you can see again, just like Val, he and his team are working with a client, different situation, different context. They've got to go and learn about what the client needs and blah and so on. They learn about the community that's served by the project. And beyond that, in the case of Dennis's group, they learned about, there was a bit of a tension between themselves and the client, because they felt that they had some professional responsibilities associated with public health and grey water recycling that perhaps the client didn't appreciate, and there were other sort of technical issues. So they had to work that through. That was sort of professional education. No other group got that experience. That's okay with me. The other thing that they're doing is that they had to design and build a biofilter. That's not something that's covered in the second year curriculum. So they've kind of gone ahead, they've done some a fair amount of self-directed learning in this case, and it will put them in good stead as they go into their senior courses. So in fact, this course has got 126 students, and each team is learning a little bit about different things. You'll see what Andrew's group is doing in a minute. And that is sort of a little bit of self-directed learning that sets them up for going into their 3rd and 4th year courses. So, the broad umbrella of this course is that they learn about project management, civil engineering design process on a small scale, and then how sustainability is woven into that. So, yeah.
Dennis, I'm just wondering about the next piece now, about looking at developing policy around gray water, and how, if you're going to bring in other disciplines to do this, because I can see a real professional opportunity here.
Sure. Yeah, do you want to say
Yeah, I was
something?
actually going to speak. That's a great question. We actually have coordinators, professional staff in other faculties, in arts and the Sauder School of Business and Land and Food Systems. And we all work together at Applied Science, of course, to figure out, are there projects that have started, been initiated, that are more complex, that go beyond the discipline that started the project, and how can other courses build in and help to solve that need. So in this case, that's a really great interdisciplinary project. Okay.
So we're looking for, this is early days. We're getting our feet wet. We feel that we finally got a few things right. And then I think what we'd like to move into, in addition to different disciplines working on similar projects, actually having students from different disciplines come together at strategically relevant times to work together. And that would be lovely. So. Thanks, Dennis. Andrew, do you want to put your
Sure.
So Dennis, oh, he's got it on a USB, perfect. Has got a little video that he wanted to show about his project.
What?
Oh, sorry, Andrew, sorry.
So again, my name's Andrew, and my client was the Terranova Schoolyard Society for the second one. Yeah. And this is our project, was basically to build on last year's project and the previous year, and work with our client named Ian Lyon. He's a great guy. And basically what he wanted was to build upon the wheel and create a system that is sustainable and made from reusable material and that is portable. So basically when we got the wheel, we have this big box with a big motor kind of like attached to the side with L brackets, and he didn't really like how he had to transport the motor and the wheel at the same time. So what we did is we basically took almost all of it apart, pretty much separated the motor from the wheel, and we came up with a design that was portable enough for him to carry all by himself. So all the parts was able to be attached, and he can pick them up himself, he can take it apart, he can put it together, he can easily transport it and store it in one concentrated area. And what he really wanted was to produce more energy from the wheel itself. So what we did with that is we put a better motor. Scott Jackson, which is the technician who worked with us, we got a couple of scrap motors to try out, and we had 3 motors. One that, the original motor, which produced only 3 watts, and the new motor that's on there right now produced about 30. So it's about 10 times as much power as the original. And the other thing we wanted to do was to store it and store the electrical energy and store the water. So what we did is we created an electrical box, which you will see later in the video, that has a battery and a charge controller to regulate the flow going into the battery, and eventually transferring that energy into an inverter where you can plug any household device. So, so that's one part of this project. The other half was to do with a water recapturing system where we reuse the water that gets run through the wheel, and it gets, basically, it drips into a gravity drip line and can water a garden, for example, or it can water your lawn, maybe in hot summer months. And, could you play that? So, as you can see, the wheel itself was given to us by the previous year, and we basically added all the various components such as we can satisfy needs. So, as you can see over there on the photo, that's our electrical box, our gravity drip line. And the whole intent of the electrical component was to basically demonstrate to kids on how electricity is generated and how we can conserve energy, and hopefully this project will be able to be brought to different schools and to educate children on how we can conserve and learn about sustainability in this form. So it's kind of like an active project where we can teach kids on about sustainability and how to conserve energy in the future. So this is just one model, and this is pretty much what we came up with. As you can see, our electrical box is running the laptop. So the battery is totally separate, it's totally apart, and it's running straight from the battery. So no battery. About 2 minutes or so to just turn it on. Because originally we started with it off, so that was kind of not it. So You gotta turn it off,
That's
and
all.
eventually you'll see that the laptop will turn
Turn it
on.
off? Yeah, but it has to wait until it's actually on. Hold on.
So this goes beyond what the students will learn in the undergraduate program in civil engineering. They don't learn a lot about electrical systems and mechanical systems. But there's no question that they will be better civil engineers, having again done a lot of self-directed learning to learn about other disciplines and some of the challenges that other disciplines face. So it's a fabulous project.
And that's the gravity grip one. So you can see it's slowly dripping, which is what it's supposed to do. It's not supposed to overwater your garden, for example. So over time it will we basically used I think it was a garbage can, which is about 40 liters, maybe 40 gallons, right? Yeah, 40 gallons. We didn't actually do a lot of final calculations for how long it will take to charge the battery because we didn't have like the tools and we didn't have any computer software to analyze that. And the time that we had to complete the project was not enough. So by the time we completed the project, we had the presentation to get ready for in 2 weeks' time. So a lot of the testing would take a couple 3 to 6 hours just to analyze and see how long it will drain. So
That's next year.
yeah, it can be an extra project to do some analysis on the wheel, and hopefully Science World may take up this project, or other big clients may want to use this as a demonstration to teach kids.
So the kind of coursework that the students did associated with these projects was that at the end of first term, they had to submit as a team sort of a design report, as well as a kind of a record-keeping report. And then in the second term, they had to before they went into their build, they had to give a presentation to a review board. So this is the first time a lot of these students would have given a presentation. And then they went ahead and did their build. They got the okay to go ahead. They went ahead and did their build. And then as a final deliverable, they had choices, but most students chose to put together a written memo describing how their project that they delivered was different from what they had designed in the first term, as well as they put together a poster. Each team put together a poster, and last Monday we had what we billed as a poster session and community mixer, where we invited all the community organizations to come to UBC. We served a light lunch. The students got their posters out and were there to answer questions about their posters, and the students got to see what all the other students were doing. We had a lot of help, not only from the community organizations, but from people here at UBC. I guess Andrew was mentioning Scott Jackson, who is the electrical technician in civil engineering, did a lot of work to help throughout the years with these groups. And did you guys get some help from anybody else? Or you guys are pretty much. Oh, yeah.
We got help from two wastewater professors in civil engineering, Dr. Jim Atwater and
Dr. Hall.
Dr. Hall.
Yeah. And then also people from the environmental lab.
Yeah.
And then Val, you got sort of
We talked to Dr. Lawrence a little bit.
Yeah.
And other than that, it was mostly just like home depot people.
Yeah.
trying to get the tubing and the valves to fit. So
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's fantastic. So that's great. So and then in addition, so that was the kind of course learning, but they did a whole bunch of extra work. In fact, I have to be a little bit careful that they don't do so much work that it impinges on their other courses, you know. And then the other thing that they did was they were asked to sort of step back and reflect on their projects. Think about how what each of them did relates to civil engineering design, how it relates to sort of larger project management issues, and what they did that was kind of linked to sustainability that they could see they could carry on in the practice. So they would write journals. Do you guys want to make any comments about the kind of reflection activities that you were asked to do?
Sure. Yeah, well, it was just like like asking questions like about like what it was like to work with like your team and the client, and like how we thought that what we were doing related to like civil engineering practice, like kind of like real life, and yeah, just like working with the team and like what it was like playing different roles, and like how working with different people changed during the project, and
Yeah, okay, thank you. Do you want to?
Yeah, well, the journal entries asked us to reflect on the communication between the team, what we did at our meetings, like what worked and what didn't. And it wasn't my favorite part about the course. And I felt that most of the things that the journal asked for, like between our team during our meetings, where we discussed, like it was part of the project, and to implement it successfully, we discussed like as engineers what we should do, like realistically what people would do. So I felt like it was a bit extra, and it was not the most useful for me.
Yeah, and I think what Dennis is describing is common amongst in the class. So this is something that I struggle with in trying to provide reflection activities that are sort of more meaningful to the students.
I also thought that the reflection bit was a little bit difficult. But however, I do see that the reflection has benefited me a lot, because it kind of allows me to step back away from the project and look back on what we've done and how our team has grown over the course of the period. So as we're able to reflect, it gives you an idea of what you can do in the future and how you can maybe improve yourself over as we continue our practice in engineering. So a lot of the skills that you develop now will benefit you a lot in the future, and I thought that it gives me a sense of what I need to do and what I need to learn in order to deal with other people and deal with clients and organize a project. So that's how I felt.
And the students got support through their projects by each team was linked to a senior student in our program who was interested in getting a little bit of leadership skills. Some teams used their senior mentor more than others, but each had the opportunity to access somebody who'd kind of been through a similar experience. And in addition, each student who wrote a reflection got feedback on the reflection from a mentor who was trained to give sort of meaningful feedback to their journal entries. So they got individual attention. And that, in a big program, we have like 127 students in each year in each cohort. So it's really hard to give students, they're all big classes, students feel like a number, and this way we try to give them sort of individual attention. And I don't know if you guys want to comment on that, if that worked for you or not. Or
I like that word.
Yeah.
Just before this conference, I was looking at the CSL documents, and I noticed that I was writing to Andrew's mentor for his project, Stanley Chan, and I like the part where every project we're not writing to the mentor that we meet with. It's someone different. It's someone that's like independent of your project, and you can give a very honest reflection about how you felt working with them.
Yeah, that's good. We're wondering about that, so it's good.
Yeah, on the same lines as Dennis, I do agree that it was good that we had different reflection mentors. They also provided, I thought, really good questions, reflection questions back as a response in order for me to kind of like, oh, I didn't think of that idea before, and maybe I can incorporate that later on. So the mentors, I thought, did a good job in responding back to the emails, although they weren't as promptly as maybe like 1 week or so. It may have taken a few weeks due to their busy schedule, but I think the journal entries did work out quite well.
So, do we want to just ask
yeah,
questions?
any
Any
questions?
questions?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there any venues for art students to get involved in this program? I can see where applied science is a bit more tangible for the clients to understand and for tangible projects to happen. And art students have less opportunity to have these kind of chances to get involved in the community and create projects that are needed for sustainability.
We actually have a coordinator in the Faculty of Arts, and there's quite a number of classes in geography, sociology, history, Asian studies, philosophy, so and poli-sci. So there are opportunities. So it's just, if you're interested, you can definitely connect with me or with that Heather Turnbull is the coordinator, and she can think creatively, help you think creatively about how to incorporate this into those kind of classes.
Yeah, I can't underline strongly enough how valuable the CSL coordinator in the Faculty of Applied Science has been helped. There's no way that we could do this without that help, so it's just been fabulous. The ideas that come out, the sort of things that she's getting from other faculties that we can sort of keep an eye, it's just been fantastic.
It's a wonderful opportunity.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, it's great. And I'll have my contact information for anybody who'd like to connect with any of those people on campus.
Yes?
Sorry, I think you're waiting.
Well,
Well, I could definitely speak to the value in interfaculty projects. John Horn was one of the panelists for the debate earlier. He and I actually worked to develop a similar program for the ECM program, which is a graduate business program as well. And being able to go out and engage with these businesses, kind of in a way that isn't necessarily co-op, and it's very much guided by professors, and it primes the students prior to a co-op period or actually entering the working world. And I was just wondering, in the context of applied sciences, how does this type of class and these projects, how do they interact with the co-op program? How do they relate?
Well, there's a key difference in that these students are working for not-for-profit organizations. So they tend to be supporting communities that are trying to strengthen themselves. So a lot of the students, not all, but a lot of the students end up working in the downtown east side. So in a course like the one I'm teaching, there are some explicit learning objectives as the ones that I've just described. Implicit learning objectives include giving the students who tend to come from a single socioeconomic group experience in working with people other than themselves. That's something that we want to bring into the professional program, because the truth is that what these people will be doing when they graduate and become professionals will be impacting people from all across our society. So we want to give them some understanding about different community groups that are unlike some people that they know them personally. So we go after, and community service learning is about working for not-for-profits. Maybe you want to say something more about that. But as a professional program, that's invaluable to us. So it's different. So then, this course that these students take happens before they do any co-op experience. About half of our students, or even more, right, go into the co-op program. And even if they're not in the co-op program, they get work in the summers and so on. So they'll be going into their first work project this coming summer, having had this experience. These projects help them get jobs as well. So there's no explicit link, and I'm actually quite happy that there's no explicit link.
Yeah, it does seem like having that kind of relevant, practical experience. You know, it is bridging the divide between in-class learning and practical experience with a company. And I don't know if you have time, but I'd like to hear what the students think, maybe on how this might impact your selection of a co-op program. I'm not exactly familiar with how the applied sciences do the co-op programs, but how this might facilitate a more successful experience.
Are you guys in the co-op program?
I
Neither one.
am.
Oh, you are.
Yeah. Well,
So you had to apply before you.
yeah, but this is like the wonderful part about this course is that the projects that we're working on, we got to choose ourselves. We were given a brief overview of what they were about, and we signed up for the one that interested us the most. So regardless of the experience, I was definitely for the project. Just the Greywater part I wanted to do, and that's why I think it worked out so well, because everyone who signed up they all wanted to do this project, and it wasn't much work for us to do extra research on something that we're interested in. And in the end, it looks great on the resume, having built a gray water filter in your second year.
All right, thank you.
I just have a question about the evaluation piece. What does that look like? My goodness.
So this is the third year we've gone through this. And when you're introducing stuff new to the curriculum, particularly if it's a core program, I've learned that you need to go very light on the sort of evaluation. So everybody does very well in this course. Some people do better than others, but everybody does well, unless they're not pulling their weight. One of the key pieces of this evaluation for both term courses is that the students do peer evaluations of their teams. And we've learned from previous experience that the way to do that is not to give a separate peer evaluation mark, but rather to kind of weight their teamwork based on peer evaluations that the students do. So shortly, now that they've finished their CSL, they'll be given the opportunity to evaluate their peers. So the evaluation looks like the teamwork, the deliverables that they give to the clients, I look at, I evaluate, and as we move forward, I'd like to get some input from the community organizations in terms of evaluating students. That's what we'll be doing in the future, I think. They also peer evaluate, and then we evaluate to some degree their reflections. I think we need to become a little bit more rigorous about that, but I'm not too worried about it because the students are self-motivated, and and that's a good thing. We want to move them away from marks and toward just doing a good, being self-motivated. So. Does that kind of answer your question?
I want to just say they're getting credit for the learning, not necessarily for the service. So evaluation looks different in every class, and the coordinators help each instructor figure out how are they going to evaluate based on what the students are actually doing. But it's all about how they're applying the course content into the community identified needs. So in this case, you're evaluating the project because that's all about the course content. So how did they actually take the concepts and then apply them?
I just wanted to kind of add to that. For my group, when we first met each other, we were kind of like, we didn't know who was who, we didn't know who was in the class, and I thought it was just a great opportunity to communicate with people that we don't regularly associate ourselves within the classroom. And although this was for marks, as we went through the designing process and coming up with ideas and stuff like that, we didn't really think of what we were graded on, because generally our main focus was to make sure the client was satisfied. That was our main goal and nothing else. As long as this client was satisfied with what we did, that's what we came up with. So for our project, I hope that our client is satisfied and all our hard work was put to good use. So.
Yeah, and I have to say that we go around, we meet with all the organizations and review with them all the learning objectives for the course and what we're hoping students will get out of the project. So we work together with the organizations to kind of help guide the students through the projects. And that's worked extremely well. I mean, I can't say enough about the community organizations and how enthusiastic they are. The more they get involved with the students, the more they want to get involved with the students, and that's just fantastic. So.
And one more thing I'd like to add is that it's quite a relief when, in the beginning of our project, when we thought things were going to work out so well, it's quite a relief when Susan came around and told us, don't worry about marks. Because although it's a service project, it's still worth 6 credits over the 2 terms, and that has a significant weight in our average. So yeah, it's good not getting too much.
Thanks.
We probably should move to Danielle. On the screen here is another staff member in the Community Learning Initiative, Danielle Blonde. We're using technology in action here, Skyping in, and Danielle, I'll turn it over to you if you want to do a quick introduction of your role, and then,
Where is Danielle? So Danielle's in France.
yes, Danielle's in France, right?
And Danielle, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah. I can't hear anyone else though, so I don't know what's going on.
So Danielle, we've got you full screen right now, so we're just, people can see you up on the screen, and then we can minimize you if you're wanting to, I can sort of scroll around the site if you
Okay, great. Great, okay. I apologize because I don't know what's been said, but I just really wanted to be here today to kind of showcase the website that we're using in order to kind of advance community service learning. Can you hear me? Am I able?
Yeah.
Hear me? Okay, so so my name is Danielle, and I'm the coordinator of communities of practice at the UBC Community Learning Initiative. And I really do apologize that I wasn't able to be there, but we can take advantage of technology and kind of have me Skype in for this session. So I'm not sure, have people seen the website kind of on and off?
Just briefly, yeah.
Just briefly, okay. So this website, it was really recently developed, and it was developed to be a tool that helps support those who are involved and interested in community service learning to share, learn, and connect with each other. So Catherine, maybe as I'm talking, maybe you can click on some of the different pages. So just briefly to tell you what I mean by this. So first, in terms of sharing, we really wanted this website to be a place where those who were involved could come and showcase what they're involved in. So on the home page, there's these rolling pictures that those who are involved can showcase, their course or their initiative, or showcase an organization that's working in community service learning. And I'm not sure if Susan Nesbitt pointed to her page, but we have, under who is involved on the website, we have some of the different faculties around UBC, and so the faculties can share about how they're involved. And Susan, on the app side faculty page, says more about her civil engineering course and some of the examples that might have been talked about today. And so we also wanted this website to be a place where people could share their resources. So on the resources page, faculty have submitted things such as course syllabi and reflection assignments. So in terms of learning, this website really provides a place for those to learn more about what community service learning is, and to get examples of previous projects. And also just to grab information about what's happening on campus. So on the homepage, there's that on the right-hand side. It kind of features, what's new, what's happening, some of the events around UBC. And lastly, one of the neat things about this website is that it can really let people connect to each other. And one way is through asking questions to the UBC community and commenting on these questions. So we've developed something just like a Q&A section, so people can post their questions, and then anyone from UBC or else can comment. So it's a way for people to kind of get to know or talk to each other about their experiences and share their knowledge. So those are kind of our key goals with this site. So the site actually went live on March 1st, so it's quite new. It's about 2.5 weeks old. It took roughly 8 or so months to create, with technical support from OLT, who've been really great. And I just wanted to let you guys know that this was built using the blogging platform WordPress, and so I believe that those who are attending the intro to blogging session this afternoon, I think you'll be introduced to WordPress then. So I think it's important to note that when I first started this project, I really had little to no web development experience. And so OLT definitely provided me with some technical assistance, but it just goes to show that WordPress is really, a user-friendly platform. So those of you who are interested in creating these types of online spaces, I just want to assure you that creating something like this is really possible. So, and even for those of you who have no experience, the website, it definitely took a ton of energy, but it is very possible. So we're really excited to see how the site will be used and how technology will be used to help support people connect and learn from each other. So yeah, that's just basically all I wanted to say about that.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions?
Yeah, we felt like there were some questions.
Yeah, there are some questions for you. So I'm in the
I
back.
can't see anybody.
So I'm just curious how you're engaged with success of that online space for community building. How do you engage that? Is it like discussions or the amount of maybe
discussions that come out of there, or what is the plan for gauging the success of that site?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're just, it's such at the very, very kind of beginning stages. So we're very interested to see how it's going to be used. We're using something called Google Analytics, and some of you might know. And I mean, that's basically saying, capturing raw data on how many people are visiting the site and what page is the most popular. So that's just kind of giving us some data on that. But how people kind of connect and share with each other is through filling out this online form, which then comes to us, and then we can either post the question or post the course that people are interested in showcasing and stuff like that. So I think success will be, over the next couple of months, seeing how it's being used and seeing if people are responding and wanting to showcase what they're doing and they want to kind of highlight their courses or highlight their initiatives. And I think success will just be through even kind of verbal comments and what we hear about how this website is helping people understand more about community service learning, or how it's inspiring them to become more involved. I mean, that's kind of what I see right now as a success. I don't know if Susan Grossman wants to comment on that.
I think Susan's gonna jump in.
That's a great question, and one that we are sort of struggling with, because as Danielle said, we're not sure yet how it's going to be used. So for us, that's the first piece, is are people using it, or how they see themselves linking to it. I've already had a couple of faculty say, great site, now we're thinking about creating something. And I'm saying, well, why create something separate? Why not just use ours? Yeah, so it's about educating the community as well to understand that this is meant to be that place to house those discussions. So it's somewhat of a slow build in some ways, but if anyone has ideas.
It's not overnight, right?
Yeah, if anyone has ideas, we'd love to hear them for sure. Yes.
Building on what we were discussing earlier this morning about social media, I'm just curious how you might look to utilize social media to enhance engagement or promotion or whatever your ends might be with the program and your online platform.
You want to give that to Danielle?
So can you sort of restate
social media and
how do you or if you do, how do you plan on using social media for your online platform?
Okay. So the question, Danielle, is how you plan on using social media for your online platform, or to engage students and the community. So
Yeah.
If you do plan on using
that's a really good question.
If you do plan on using it, yeah.
I think we definitely would like to. As of right now, I don't think we're necessarily using that. I don't see us being that advanced quite yet, but I'm hoping in the future we should. We're definitely looking at kind of strategic ways to engage specifically students who I think have a thirst for this type of technology. But at this point right now, we are kind of as is, and this is what we have, and we're kind of going forward with this and seeing where this will take us. But in the future, definitely, yeah.
Thanks.
Are we near the end here?
Yep. So we are coming up to the end. About 3 minutes.
I'd like to thank everyone again for coming. If there's any final questions, I think we can say a couple minutes for sure afterwards, and feel free to come on up. And I'll have my contact information if anyone wants more details on CSL and wants to connect with a professional staff member who can help either in your faculty, your class, if you're a student, can help engage you in that as well. So are there any final questions for the whole group before I say? I'd like to thank Susan and the team, Andrew, Dennis, and Val, thank you for coming. You guys offered so much to the discussion. It was really, really appreciated. So, and thank you all.